Welcome to the Fathering Strong podcast, where we celebrate the incredible journeys of fathers who are making a difference. Hosted by Urban Light Ministry President and author, Pastor Eli Williams. Each week, we'll hear from an inspiring guest who will share their unique fatherhood story. We'll discuss the challenges, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way, offering valuable insights and encouragement for all dads. Join us as we explore the power of fatherhood and build a brighter future for our families.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fathering Strong podcast. I'm Eli Williams. Great to have you here for this edition. And today I've got with me two guests, and they work together. In fact, they are neighbors to Fathering Strong here. They are Mark Stevenson and Bart Little. And today we're going to talk about raising money-smart kids. You know, this is something that I wish was around when I was young and growing up. I wish my parents had known how important learning how to manage your money is, even from the time you are young. And so we've got some experts here who don't necessarily work with parents in that way, but they've got a wealth of knowledge that we want to share with you, our Fathering Strong podcast audience. So thanks for joining us today. Welcome, Mark and Bart.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
Hey, we usually start our Fathering Strong broadcasts by getting acquainted. And we do that by asking you about your own fathering story. Now, we didn't talk about this ahead of time, so okay. I don't want you to be, too put off for it. This is kind of the way we do it. Tell us about, first of all, your father and your relationship with him, good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. It's all important, and people are inspired. Mm-hmm. And then we'll get into your own fatherhood journey, if in fact you have children of your own. So who'd like to start? Or is that my job to tell you which one to start?
I'll start.
All right.
I had a great relationship with my father. He passed away about 10 years ago.
I'm sorry.
But, very supportive of me playing sports growing up. He was always there coaching. If he wasn't coaching, he was there. We were very close. I wouldn't trade that for the world, I'll be honest with you. And it was just a great childhood growing up with my father.
Excellent.
I have two children. I'm divorced, but I have two children, two boys, and they are 19 and 17. We have a great relationship. My 19-year-old is at University of Cincinnati as a freshman, and my 17-year-old's a junior at Catholic Central High School here in Springfield. And we have a very good relationship. They're in that age where they're still not, like, their parents still aren't cool yet. They still think we're kind of lame.
Of course.
And all that. But, I just look forward to, as they get older, realizing, we're at a point now where it's not a father-son relationship. It's more of a friend relationship. And so I'm really looking forward to more of that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How about you, Mark?
My dad, he still lives here in Springfield. And I grew up down in the west end of Springfield.
This is Springfield, Ohio, for those of you who are not local.
Snyder Park School. And so we had a little house down in Maiden Lane. And my dad worked for, I think, 35 years thereabouts at Navistar. So he worked on different lines. He worked in the paint department there. And but he would work from like 4 o'clock to midnight many years that I remember. So I'd come home from school, and then he'd get home late at night. And so on the weekends, I'd stay up late, and we'd watch like scary movies and stuff like that. But I think growing up, one of the things I learned was quite often, it was International back in the day, would go on strike. So this would cause financial hardships within the family, and how you had to make adjustments when regular paychecks stopped.
Yeah.
And so those were life lessons that from the time I was 6, 7, 8 years old that we had to make these changes. But I still had a wonderful life, and we had everything that we needed, and So I'm here right now.
Are you a parent?
Yes, I am. I've got a daughter and only child. Mm-hmm.
Only child. I used to hate only children. No, not hate. I come from a family with 13 kids.
Oh, my.
I'm one of 13, so I wouldn't know what it would be like to be an only child. Hey, listen, thank you for sharing your stories. That's a good way of getting to know you, and it speaks to the other fathers who are in our audience generally. Mm-hmm. So on this topic of raising money-smart kids, foundationally speaking, what are the earliest, when is the earliest you should start talking to kids about money? And what are those foundational things that you want kids to learn? And any suggestions for how a dad or mom or both would go about beginning to introduce their children to the concepts around taking good care of money?
I personally think the biggest thing that parents, fathers, mothers can teach their children about money is probably compounding interest. I really believe that. If they start early enough, the children, they don't have to put a lot of money away every month. It's not like, oh, you have to save $1,000 a month for you to have this. You know, you can start with $25, $100, $10 a month going into an investment when the child is born, all the way up until the child is working, or you can do IRAs, which we'll discuss, I guess, a little bit more in depth.
Sure.
As they get older. And not a lot will grow into a lot over a long period of time. I think that's the biggest thing that I think parents should teach their children is you don't have to be rich to stay rich or to get this money. It's a very minimal amount that you could start for your children as when they're born, and can let that continually grow until they reach a certain age, and they might have money for a down payment on a house. They might have money for college. You know, there's just a lot of things that I wish that I think my family would have done that more for me but again, like they don't know. I think a lot of people don't know what they can do early in life for these young children.
Yeah. Let's say your kid is 7 years old, right? 7 years old. Mm-hmm. And they're probably not going to have a whole lot of interest in retirement and college savings.
Right.
So what, in an age-appropriate way, can a parent use as a tool or as an example or as a teaching to teach them the importance of setting money aside?
I think that the earlier you start, the better. And that's, I think, one of the first things that you can teach the child is the difference between needs and wants. That is probably the first thing. It's like, so you take you're at the grocery store or you're at Macy's or whatever, and then they start having a fit because they want that. So I think if you can make that define whether it's clothing, a piece of clothing, or a piece of candy or a toy or something like that, make that initial distinction, and then decide if it is a want. Okay, so how do you go about paying for that, and give them some sort of an understanding that, okay, if you want this thing, then it's going to cost money. And how do you get that money? Well, mom and dad, they go to work, and they get up in the morning and they take you to school, and they do their jobs, and at the end of the week or the end of the month, they get paid, and then they've got certain things that they have to pay for, like your house or your car or your apartment and electricity, that kind of thing. And then there's stuff left over for the things that you want, like going to the movies or going to McDonald's, that kind of thing. And so then you start teaching budgets and So another tool there is to set up some sort of like an allowance, give them some chores and say, okay, and you grew up with probably with having some sort of an allowance or whatever, and be consistent with that. And if they say, well, I want a new bicycle or whatever, say, well, you get such and such a week, and this bike costs $200 or whatever, and so are you going to save to do that? So these are the kind of early things that I believe that are important.
So little Johnny says he wants this pair of Air Jordans, right? That's still a thing. I think it is.
It's really a thing.
Right. Okay. So, okay. Well, in that case, you get X amount in your allowance. You need to set aside X amount every week to put towards these Jordans.
Right.
And by the end of X number of weeks, we'll go to the store and get you your Jordans. Is that the kind of thing you're thinking?
Exactly. And then you can, well, I said, well, I want it now. Well, so Johnny, we'll just call him Johnny, say, well, all right, well, it's going to take you 10 weeks to pay for this. Well, at the end of the 10th week, you're going to have to work 2 more weeks to pay me back because I'm loaning you this money. So that kind of gives the initial concepts of interest. So
yeah,
and because there's good interest, so you if you put money in the bank and you've got $10 in there, and the bank's going to give you $1 every month or whatever, but if you take a loan out, well, they may charge you $2 for each month that until you pay it back. So this is a good way to start learning about interest, good and bad.
Yeah, I like that. So when's the right time, and I guess it might depend upon the child, to start teaching them budgets or maybe even managing a checking account?
Oh, well,
I mean, I think you have to be, which is about 18 anymore to have a checking account, which is unless your parents on it. I find that with my kids, you have to have. But I think we were honest, I think it really depends on the parents more than the child.
So what do you mean?
Mark hit on something consistency, you can't, all right, I need you to work 5 weeks to pay off these shoes or to mow the grass every week for 5 weeks. That's going to be your job in allowance. And then after 2 weeks, you're like, I'll just mow the grass. 'Cause they're not learning anything. And I think being consistent with that is a main, because I'm terrible with that, with the consistency with my children. You know what? I'll just do it myself. It's easier that way. So I think that, being that consistent parent really helps the child understand it more than anything. And putting money aside, if you're doing it, you're teaching to your child. If you're not doing it, you're not going to teach that to your child. If you're not putting away money, that's for your retirement.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't put money in their retirement. If they work at International or Navistar, sorry, my dad worked there too, so, or Topre or Amazon or any of the places around here, Honda, if you're not utilizing the retirement that they're offering, you're probably going to have a harder time teaching your child about.
Yeah, sure. Some things are better caught than taught.
Yes.
If they know what you're doing and they see what you're doing and they see the results of it, they're much more likely to do it themselves.
Yeah. And if they're not putting money towards their own retirement, they're probably not going to help their children with money also.
Sure.
Or to teach them a certain way. So I think, like I said, that a main consistency is from the parent, not really as much the child in regards to what they can start doing. I think a parent really needs to, it's a sacrifice. If you're putting $100 a month into your child or $25 a month, as you said, the parent has to sacrifice if that's a large portion of their budget.
So the bottom line is just to be a good role model yourself.
Yeah. Good stuff. Now, things have changed, unfortunately. There's questions about whether or not there's going to be Social Security, whether or not there's going to be Medicare. Medicaid or any of that. So I would think that probably when if you've got a teenager, it's a pretty good time to have that conversation, don't you think, with your kids about them preparing for that day that they would like to retire. Mm-hmm. So here's some things you need to do to be ready for that day. We'll talk about that after we take this time out. My guests today are Mark Stevenson and Bart Little, and we're talking about raising money-smart kids. Stay with us. We'll be back with more after this.
Looking to be the best dad you can be? The Fathering Strong podcast is your guide. Hosted by Pastor Eli Williams. Each episode features inspiring conversations with dads who are making a difference. Learn valuable strategies for building strong families, tackle tough fatherhood issues, and get motivated to be your best self. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Your subscription helps us provide free services and resources to families in need. Don't wait. Subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast today and join our community of dads committed to building strong families. Together, let's make a difference.
Welcome back to the Fathering Strong podcast. I'm Eli Williams, and my guests today are Bart Little and Mark Stevenson. We're talking money, raising money-smart kids. Now, just before the break, I mentioned the fact that as parents, we need to be concerned about teaching our kids so that they are ready someday to retire. Mm-hmm. Particularly considering, the questions that exist now about whether or not by the time they are ready to retire, there's going to be Social Security and Medicare and things like that, which have been very helpful to me, in fact, as a person who is of retirement age. So where do you start with that? How do you begin with your teenagers to even have that conversation about preparing now for their financial future?
Well, they're probably, it's not even really going to hit their brains until they're after they graduate from college. It's just a concept that's not even going to cross their minds. But
because I'm going to live forever, right?
Exactly. And I mean, even when I was in my teens, there were still discussions about, we're going to run out of money of Social Security in 2025 or whatever. So there's always been this concern that Social Security is not going to be there, and there is concerns that there are budgetary concerns with Social Security, and quite frankly, this could probably be resolved through some congressional actions. But they always, as Congress being what they are, they wait until the last minute until the house blows up before they decide to do anything to fix it. So I believe there are some actions that can be taken to help prolong this even further. It's just a matter of will and actually taking some positive action to make whatever corrections are needed.
Yeah, I think Mark hit on a good point. A lot of them aren't going to realize this till they get out of college, or even if they don't go to college, they start working a 9-to-5 job, which nobody works 9 to 5 anymore. It's 6 to 3 or second shift or third shift, because that's exactly what I thought was they don't start really taking investing until they're serious until their mid-20s. And that's what I kind of did, was I ran just numbers of, okay, if you invest in a Roth IRA or an IRA at that point, any type of investment, doesn't even have to be a Roth IRA. It can be any type of investment. And if they just put $100 a month in, starting at age 25, at age 60, if that amount just earned 8%, if you're investing in mutual funds or source of growth stock, that's about an average that you would get over that period of time. You're going to have $200,000, $46,000 or $42,000 of principal will turn into $200,000 you'll have when you at age 60, which is not retirement in age anymore. I think it's in the 70s now, which is unbelievable to me.
People are living longer and, have more,
Yeah.
they're healthier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like me, I'm still working at 74,
Yeah.
so it's not uncommon anymore.
Exactly. And like I said, if I just said $100 a month, so when they're working and they're making $25 a week, they put into an investment or $100 a month, that turns into $200,000 over, 35 years.
So you're saying, if I'm understanding you, you're saying that it's useless to start talking to a teenager about setting aside $1 from his whatever source of income so that it'll help get an early start.
Well, I don't think it's useless. And I don't think Mark thinks it's useless. I just think they think it's useless. We think if you could, if you were smart, when your child is born, you start putting money in the account for them right then and there.
So really it's the parent that needs to be doing it on behalf of the child.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then when it's the child's responsibility, they're like, I need that $100. I need that for beer and pizza or whatever they want to spend it on.
Yeah.
Video games. I need that money.
So where then would a parent of a child of whatever age, where would they put that money? What would you recommend they put that little bit, even if it's just $5 a month? Where do they put it?
Well, it really depends on what the dollar amount is. I think one of the absolute best platforms for younger children is to set up a 529. So you could do that with Vanguard in the state of Ohio or BlackRock. So you can actually invest that money, $100 a month, $50 a month. I've got several of those set up for my clients, and it's amazing what when they've set them up for grandchildren, and now they're getting ready to go to school, and they may have an extra $50,000 or $100,000 in those accounts, and there's been some changes to the laws before. You had to use them specifically for higher education needs, but they've made some changes there that's, one, you can pass this on to a sibling if they're going to need this for if one's child does not go to college, you can give this to another family member. And so that still maintains this tax-free nature of the growth in the account. But they've also added something in there that the custodian of the account, if that money is not used, and I believe the amount might be like $35,000, and there's certain stipulations with that if the money is not used up to a certain dollar amount, I do think it's $35,000. The custodian can still access that money tax-free, so it can be like a separate little savings account for them if the money is not used by the children. So it's a very, very good account.
You called it a 529?
529 plan.
Yeah. The 529 plan is basically a college savings plan. But as Mark said, now it's for just any education. If your child goes to tech school, I believe you can use it for tech school.
Good.
If they go to, a private school, I think even in high school, if they go to private school, you could use it for that. It's very, not in general what you can use it for, but when it comes to schooling, it's that they're allowing you to use it. It used to be just for a 4-year college, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're expanding that.
All right, good.
The other thing they can do once the child gets around the age of 16 and they've got actual taxable income, you can open up a custodial IRA or preferably a Roth IRA. Then you can take whatever their taxable money is. Let's say they're earning $2,000 a year, working at Pizza Hut or whatever. You could actually fund up to whatever their taxable income is, put that money into a Roth IRA. So now you do that over either you do it and then you stop at a certain point and they continue it. I mean, you could easily have $200,000 or $300,000 of tax-free income when that child grows up, hits age 65. So I just had a recent client pass away, grandmother, and she bequeathed assets to her grandchildren, and so and these came from an IRA, and then they have to take money out of this as beneficiaries each within 10 years. They have to take this money out. My suggestion was, okay, the money you have to take out each year, let's go ahead and pay the taxes on that, put it into a Roth account. Now 30 years from now, you're going to have $500,000 of tax-free income to supplement your retirement. And that is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It really
sounds great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put up to a Roth IRA is really a big thing for young people, I believe. If they're first out of high school and they're earning, they can put $7,000 into it a year. Well, and again, I go back to my waiting till they're 25 because that's when their brain starts working.
Right. It's a fact.
And
for males especially.
If you maxed out your Roth IRA from 25 to age 60, $7,000, and they'll add more every year, but let's say they don't. $7,000 to age 60, from 25 to age 60, they'll have over $1 million, $1.2 million, if they grow it at just an average of 8%. What you see CDs getting 4.25%, 5% on the billboards. So if we invest a little more and you get 8%, you'll have $1.2 million.
And so I can just visualize millions of people turning around and slapping their parents for not teaching them this stuff. I'm just kidding. Don't slap your parents, okay? It's just a joke.
It's like I said when we first started. I wish I learned. But my dad worked at International Harvester. I mean, they weren't. There was, I think, 1 or 2 advisors here in Springfield,
right?
And I think the misnomer was you had to be rich to go to a financial advisor. You had to have lots of money. And that's not the case.
Let's talk some more about that. Okay. Because you're financial advisors, and I hadn't told you before, but they are with Sterling Wealth.
That's correct.
You get the name?
Wealth Management, yes.
Mm-hmm. Sterling Wealth Management.
15 years this month.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
So you don't have to be rich to go see a financial advisor, to call them up and say, hey, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah. Correct.
Because I think that there is maybe a misconception about that.
100%. I think a lot of people say, I don't have enough money to talk to you. I'm like, no.
Now, do you charge a fee for a consultation like that?
Generally not. If someone comes in, they want to sit down and spend a half an hour, I've done this dozens and dozens of times. I may not necessarily be able to take that account, but I will sit down and explain some of the options that are available to them. But I will certainly be willing to talk to anyone that needs help.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, unless they want to do an extensive financial plan or something extravagant, sitting down and talking with us is absolutely free.
That's really good information to have, and that information alone makes this conversation worth it, because my guess is that lots of people haven't even given a serious thought to talking to a financial advisor, feeling that, well, I really don't have the money, so, what's the point? But even in worst case scenario, you don't have the money, but you've got kids, and you want your kids to have a better start than you. Mm-hmm. There's a reason enough to come and talk to you.
Oh, absolutely.
100%, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is why we're doing this. Raising money smart kids is our topic today. I'm Eli Williams. This is the Fathering Strong podcast, and my guests today are financial advisors Bart Little and Mark Stevenson, and we'll return with more with them after this.
Children benefit significantly from the presence of committed, loving, nurturing fathers. Strong fathers contribute to stable families and safe, healthy communities. Fathering Strong connects, engages, and empowers fathers. Join the fatherhood movement at fatheringstrong.com to to discover a wealth of resources. From inspiring videos to informative articles and instructive courses. By subscribing to our resources, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping Fathering Strong provide these valuable tools to families in need. Visit fatheringstrong.com, download the app, and subscribe to our YouTube channel today. Together, let's build stronger families and communities.
Welcome back. This is the Fathering Strong podcast. Eli Williams here, and my conversation today is with Mark Stevenson and Bart Little. They're with Sterling Wealth Management, and they are talking to us about how we as dads and as moms, and hopefully working together, we can teach our kids and even ourselves do a better job of preparing as our kids grow older and eventually will reach a place where they're going to have college and they're going to have retirement and all of that themselves to be concerned about. And the sooner that children can be taught how to be money smart, the better. And so that's what we're talking about today, guys, and very helpful so far. We appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
Now, we'll get into some things that are on your minds to talk about. And as a lead into that, let me ask you, how do you teach your kids about credit and debt? How not to get yourself over your head with debt and how best to use credit?
I think you've got a pretty good example personally, don't you?
Yeah, my stepdaughter is graduating from Ohio University this semester, in a month. And she just got her first credit card. And she went on with her mom and I, and we looked at the credit cards, and she got a $500 limit. And she basically said, I'm not shopping with this. This is just going to be, if I'm doing something I just don't want to spend money, I'm going to do this right now, but I'm going to pay it off at the end of each month. And I think that's the biggest thing, is having that knowledge of what a credit card is. I think a lot of people think it's free money, and it is not. And paying it off as soon as you possibly can. Because I know a lot of people that live on credit card debt. I mean, they have tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt because things have gone up in cost, and they're not able to live the lifestyle they want to live. So I'll just put on my credit card and I'll pay the minimum payment. Well, I think most credit cards, it takes like 45 years if you pay the minimum payment to pay it off.
Yeah, because you're paying 25% and
30%
more.
interest. You're paying an incredibly high rate of interest on these things. And I think, as Mark said, the best example I have is we sat down with her and went over what a credit card is, what not to use it for, make sure you pay it off. If you don't have the money to buy it,
you don't have the money.
You don't have the money.
Right. Yeah.
And she was very like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I do not want to do credit card debt, because you can see how it can cripple a family's budget instantly. I mean, look at TV. Half the commercials are, there's debt equity, or there's debt businesses you call in and say, we can get you out of, you have $45,000 credit card. Oh, they got me out for half of it. I mean, that's a lot of commercials on TV are there. So there's a lot of debt right now, and you just have to be very responsible with it and know what you can do and learn it. So when you're with your children, sit them down. The internet's great. You can look at all the things they can get and do a very limited amount and let them be responsible for it.
And have shared passwords so you can see what's going on.
Yes, 100%.
In the account.
Yeah.
And have some oversight with that, because I mean, it's not just the amount that you owe each month, which causes pressure on yourself, and can, in some cases, can cause you to make even more bad decisions to offset that. But it affects things like your car insurance. Your car insurance is based on your credit score, because if you're handling your credit well, the insurance companies think you're going to be a better driver.
You're more responsible.
Exactly. So that's another element to monitor that that credit score. I mean, to be able to, when you're 25 or 30, to be able to what you're doing when in your early 20s could certainly impact things that when you're 30 or 35, when you go to get that first mortgage, and whether you're paying points on a house, or whether you're getting a mortgage for 5% versus 8%. These are all decisions that have ramifications over the years. And so this is and talking about credit scores to your kids, this is very important. Or maybe show them what your credit score is and how you go about finding what your credit score, whether it's Experian or TransUnion. You can run you've got the ability to go in and look for those once a year free. So you can show your children, and it shows, okay, I've got such and such debt, and they've got all these different parameters that go into determining what that credit score is. And these are life altering decisions. And whether you've got a good financial life or a very poor financial life, there are just some simple things that you can do to make sure you keep yourself on track.
Very good. And listen, dads or moms, you don't have to have done everything right yourself. I mean, lots of us have made mistakes. I've made my share of mistakes. In fact, I think credit can be addicting. You got to be careful, right? And so even though you may not have done things exactly the right way yourself, it doesn't mean then that somehow you're disqualified from teaching your children. Teach your children the way you wish you had done it. And I love the idea of actually talking to a financial advisor to give you advice on working with your children and teaching them the skills that they need to be the money smart adults.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing you just mentioned, that even if you haven't done it, teach your children. You know from your mistakes that you've made.
Right.
I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Right.
Let me make sure my kids don't do that.
Yep. Exactly.
Nothing wrong with, you didn't do anything wrong.
That's right.
But you know how the results are.
That's right. Exactly.
And there's some sites. I mean, you can go to like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they've got things that as a parent you can go in and have interactive tools, things that you can share with your children, and that teach you as a parent how to provide this information to your kid.
Now, what was that website again?
Well, that one was just the Consumer Protection Bureau. There's different, like the Financial Education for Kids. There's Sesame Workshop. That's another place that they can go to that's going to have resources to be a better parent and teach smart financial kids.
Very good. Thank you. That's a good tip. And you can always Google it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get your little Microsoft Copilot or whatever and type something in there, and within 2 seconds, you're going to have a wealth of information. It's sort of like Ancestry.com, where you get the little leaf up there, and then you can keep building off of that.
Interesting. So in the final minutes that we have here, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you would like to share, particularly when it comes to helping your kids get off to a good start financially?
The one thing that I want to express is, we mentioned, like, once they go to college, not everybody goes to college. And nowadays, more people aren't going to college, I think, than are going to college. And I don't think you have to be college educated. I don't think you have to be higher educated. You have to have a high school degree at this point. If you want to start saving now, you have the resources, Mark and I, anybody, the internet, the Google, anything like that. I think that's a big thing, because I think people just don't realize what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to go to college to ask those questions. You know, you work at any place You're a waiter, you're a waitress, you're a cook. Doesn't matter. You have the opportunity to start saving now, and the earlier you start doing it, the better for the adult, better for the parent. If they teach them earlier, that they can make their children's life a lot easier.
Thank you. Very, very sound advice.
The one thing that I highly encourage clients that are parents, or anyone for that matter, if you once your child turns 18, you immediately need to get a healthcare power of attorney set up for them, because they go to a hospital, you cannot get any information. There can be no medical decisions made once that child turns 18. And there's a Ohio, I forget off the top of my head, there's an Ohio website where you can go in and pull off these forms, and I can get those for you later. You can call me up. I can get them for you. But it's so important. Any adult child, if somebody gets, if you got an adult child that gets married, they get divorced, now there's no adult to make any medical decisions to help them if they can't help themselves. It is just absolutely critical that is done.
That sounds like another podcast topic.
Another show.
Yeah. That's good advice. So how would someone get in touch with you if they want more information, or perhaps would like to engage you in a conversation about money?
SterlingWealthOhio.com. That's our website.
Both of us are on there.
That's right. We've got different the services that we provide, whether it's retirement planning. I'm a certified divorce financial analyst, so there's information on there about that. The different type, whether it's retirement accounts, advisory accounts, our site covers just about everything that we do.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for being my guests on the Fathering Strong podcast. We really do appreciate it. And folks, I think you've heard it here, that the sooner you can start teaching your children, first by modeling good money management yourself, and then beginning to teach them how to do that themselves, and to be ready for the big investments that are coming up in their lives, from buying their first car to helping to pay for college, to retirement. It's to buying a house. All of that is in their future, and the better start that you give them, the better off they're going to be, and the better off your grandchildren and generations on are going to be. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Eli Williams, and my guests have been Mark Stevenson and Bart Little from Sterling Wealth Management. Join me again next time for another edition of the Fathering Strong podcast.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Fathering Strong podcast. We hope you found the conversation inspiring and helpful. To make sure you don't miss out on future episodes, subscribe to the Fathering Strong podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Just search for Fathering Strong in your favorite app. The Fathering Strong podcast is brought to you by Urban Light Ministries, a nonprofit organization with a 3-decade legacy dedicated to turning the hearts of fathers to their children. Thanks to your support, we're able to keep this podcast and many other resources free for dads everywhere. To learn more about Urban Light Ministries, or to donate and help us continue this important work, visit urbanlight.org. The Fathering Strong podcast is a production of Urban Light Ministries. Eli Williams is your host, and Bruce Stapleton of the Momentum Group is the producer and engineer. Our theme music is provided by saxophonist Harold Rayford.